We made a march towards continuous development, and we changed the way we develop, build, deploy, secure, and monitor software. Do you think you missed this march? The good news is that it's actually happening continuously. Join us. We're part of it too. We observe it, we document it, and we tell it. I'm your host, Cassandra Russell, and in each episode of the DevOps Fauncast, we'll treat you to an in-depth talk about a topic related to DevOps, SRE, distributed computing, Kubernetes, cloud computing, containers, and other similar concerns. You'll listen to the stories behind the stories and learn new things in each episode. You can join us on faun.dev/podcast. Today, we're thrilled to announce the launch of our newest and first show, the DevOps Fauncast. You've followed Faun online and on our newsletters, Medium publication, Slack, and social networks. Now you'll hear us loud and clear. Many of you know Faun, but let's talk about it a bit. In 2016, Ayman El-Amri, a software engineer, started a side project called Devops Links. The idea was to share his online readings in a weekly newsletter with other engineers, developers, and DevOps enthusiasts.
I've always been a fan of the idea of creating communities and gathering people around unique goals and aspirations.
He put up a webpage with a subscription form and waited for the very first subscriber. One day later, he received some notifications from Gina, Stefan, Tariq, Paul, and many others who had joined the mailing list. And that's how the first subscribers got the first issue of the newsletter. A few months later, the project incorporated other newsletters. A newsletter about serverless technologies called Shipped. Another one about Kubernetes and this wonderful ecosystem of orchestration and distributed systems. That newsletter is called Captain. Other newsletters are on the list and will soon be released, such as Zanilla, which deals with topics related to blockchain and block ops. PyDog, the newsletter dedicated to the awesome programming language Python. And GoPanda, the newsletter that Go developers will love.
The project started some years ago with a quite simple idea, a newsletter called Devops Links. I discovered later that many DevOps professionals appreciated reading the weekly issues, and I received a positive feedback from my subscribers. I also read some people on Reddit, for example, and Twitter who were inviting others to join the newsletter.
The project grew and became a set of newsletters, but that's not all. Faun also has a Slack channel with thousands of subscribers, a job board, a Medium publication, and today this podcast that you've been waiting for makes its way into the community projects.
Then I started creating other projects like Captain and Shipped newsletters, the Jobs for DevOps job board, the community Slack, and the Medium publication. So the newsletter grew into an ecosystem of projects, and that is why I created Faun, to gather all of these small projects into a single bigger project. Now we are creating this podcast, and this is really awesome.
This is the short story of Faun. Some months ago, someone on Slack asked, but what does the name Faun mean? Well, Faun is the goat man. You know, the half-goat, half-human fantasy creature with its horns, hooves, and twitchy tail. It may sound like a scary monster, but don't worry. Fauns are a symbol of peace in some mythologies, and they have their own undeniable charm. They're generally friendly to the people trotting their woodland paths, and they're known for their love of music, dancing, jokes, delicious food, and the forest. If you take a look at the newsletter, each one has a logo of a cute, adorable animal, like the cow of Devops Links. So for newsletters with animal logos, read by humans, a half-human, half-animal creature like Faun should be the perfect name. After all of these introductions, what's better than starting at the very beginning? DevOps. If you look at the history of inventions, you'll certainly find out that doers came out with most of them before thinkers. You may not agree with me on this, but in the software engineering world, hackers are leaders. There's something important we can learn from Hackers and Painters, a book written by Y Combinator founder Paul Graham. Hackers are more like painters than mathematicians. Hackers are more doers than thinkers. We're talking about the old definition of hacker here. Back in the 1960s, a hacker was an expert programmer, a passionate problem solver. The MIT group defined a hack as a project undertaken or a product built to fulfill some constructive goal, but also out of pleasure for mere involvement. And this is precisely what drives enthusiastic developers, delivering useful products and solving problems for the sake of pleasure, self-fulfillment, and profit, undoubtedly. In the DevOps movement, software engineers and developers were involved in solving many of the problems that can be encountered in other models such as waterfall. We, cloud-native people, hacked the culture and transformed companies. We accept failure, but most importantly, we detect it in the early phases. We learn fast, but most importantly, in a continuous way. We automate all the things, and we're continuous everywhere. From optimizing the development process, building better quality software, and automating all testing to continuous development, the DevOps community has helped in solving real-world problems related to the application lifecycle and other essential aspects. Working together in cross-functional teams, DevOps specialists and site reliability engineers ensure the smooth operation of several parts of a modern software-defined data center. Some years ago, DevOps moved from a hype to a must. Take these numbers, for example, from 2019 Accelerate State of DevOps report. The proportion of highest performers has almost tripled, now comprising 20% of all teams. It was only 7% in 2018. According to that same report, the proportion of low performers is down. This reflects a continued shift in the industry as organizations continue to transform their technology. Technically speaking, several disciplines have emerged and others have been transformed, like source code management, which is the task of tracking and controlling changes in the software, continuous integration, or the practice of merging all developers' working copies to shared repository, preferably several times a day, continuous delivery, which is the process of producing software in short cycles, guaranteeing that it can be released at any time. There are many others, like packaging and artifacts, virtualization, containerization, cloud computing, configuration management, provisioning, orchestration, service discovery, process management, logging, monitoring, observability, visualization, security, and error tracking. We're certainly going to consider most, if not all, of these topics, learn new things about them, and share new stories in the upcoming episodes. So keep in touch and subscribe to our podcast on faun.dev/podcast. Also, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a suggestion, you can use the hashtag AskFaun on Twitter or Instagram, or send us an email to community@faun.dev.